Yes, so welcome back all of you, and so today we will be seeing some of the interesting topics associated with structural analysis. So to start with, we have already seen what exactly is a structure. That's a very good term, isn't it? So the name itself says that the structure is based on deformation and the type of primary load that is carried. So it can be axial tension or compression, or it can be a flexor. So what do you mean by flexor? Flexor means simple bending. It's a kind of simple bending, and shear is like slicing, like shearing off. Torsion is twisting, isn't it? Or combination of any of these categories. So ultimately, it is our responsibility to understand that how does a structure behave subjected to given loads, and how we need to analyze the structure, and what are the various parameters that we need to consider. So how to determine this? So as I have given an analogy in the first class of a human body and a structural analysis, coincidentally, when I am making a PPT for your class, I found the same example. It's like a coincidence. It is given in depth here. So we have a basic skeleton. That's what you can see here, and you have two different bodies. So various components carry various types of loads, and it has, as I said before, the type of the so in human body, if you take, or a structure, if you take, size, shape and form are very, very important. So human body maintains the shape of a body and keeps sorry, is a structure which maintains the shape of a body. It keeps various organs and muscles in right place, and ultimately what do we want? If you are standing on the ground, the load from the top of the head should be transferred to the bottom. Otherwise gravity will not be balanced and you will be floating in the air. So, what is the guarantee that we are not floating in the air? Instead, we are carefully standing on the ground without falling down. That is what is called as load transmitting from top to bottom. It's a gravity effect. Now, some of the beautiful things are coming into picture here. All of you might be aware of different things, but you should understand that what practically it means, like tension or compression kind of stuff. So, if you can see the image here, a climber. So you all know that there are some mountaineers who climb, several tall mountains. Uh, uh, that's their habit, and that's their hobby, and they try to, and some of them it's a profession also. So if you can see here, three persons are trying to, what they are trying to do, they are trying to pull it. So this is person number one, and this is two, and this is three. So both are at different levels. But what is happening there? He is trying to pull it this side, isn't it? And he is trying to pull this side, and he is trying to pull the this side, and he is trying to pull this. So ultimately, some sort of tension is being applied. No compression, right? If at all, imagine that if this person C is trying to compress, what will happen? This person will fall down and this person also will come down. So ultimately there should be a balance that has to be maintained in order to ensure that the structure is under equilibrium. And one of the common thing which we come across in our daily routines is the spider web. So the civil engineering is a very close subject that is associated with the spider web. And if you can see the spider web here, it's a very good example of a tension structure. You all can see spider trying to form its web. It will only try to pull it, but not will it will not push it. It is we, out of playing conditions, will try to push the web and the entire web will come down. But ideally speaking, when it is formed, it is actually a tension. And how it is maintained? The weight of the spider and its prey is supported by the tensile strength. Very, very important. If someone asks you, how do you show the tensile tension parameter in a day-to-day routine? One simple example is the spider web. So, which means in our daily life, you are seeing all different types of phenomena, which is a very good sign for us to understand the subject carefully. And then we have a compression part. It's like a cantilever. You can see two people holding it. It's very difficult, right? You can't hold an elephant at the top. Definitely not. So either these two people will be crushed at the bottom or they'll have some injuries. And an important thing is they cannot bear the total load of an elephant. But it's an example of a compression. Next important thing is coming here. All materials and structures, this is what we are going to learn in this subject. All materials and structures deflect to different changes in their movement when they are loaded. So some of them load can be very high, and some of the cases load is very small. So the science of elasticity is about. So we are talking about elasticity, Hooke's law. What is it all about? Interaction between the force and deflection, as simple as that. In this example, the material of the branch is stretched near its upper surface at the top. You can see that here, and compressed or contracted near its lower surface by the weight of the monkey. So this is some amount of deflection. This is delta, and the weight coming from the monkey is P. So our responsibility, this is like a tree. So if somebody wanted you to analyze a tree where a monkey or any other object is there on the top of a branch, you just need to say how much load is applied and how much it got deflected. Simple. Okay. Now, what does a structure do? A structure will carry the loads. What type of loads? Dead load. The other day, some of our friends are also saying the same answer, that it carries the live load. Very good answer given in the previous classes. Live load. My load means it has to be active. So active means we are all active live people. So people, equipment which can move from one place to the other. So equipment means, so it can be it can be considered as a table, a chair, or anything which can be moved. A wind load because of wind, a wave transmission, propagation, and an earthquake. Okay. So in this subject, we are not bothered about whether we are trying to apply dead load or live load. We are just trying to apply the load accordingly as it is given and then solve. And what is the other purpose of the structure? It keeps the structure in equilibrium. We have already seen what is equilibrium. Static equilibrium means sum of all the static forces should be equal to zero, and dynamic equilibrium means same dynamic. And it transfers the load to the continuous structural components and transfer the load safely and to the foundation. Correct, right? So you are sitting in a room, see the top, there is a roof. As I said, the load will be transferred from roof to beam, beam to column, column to column and wall, and from that to the foundation. So the purpose of the structure is to transfer the load from top to the bottom. Or in simple terms, if we are walking on the top of a floor, that load should be transferred to the ground. Simple. So you can see that here, a simple example of how it safely transfers the load from top to bottom. You have a snow, you have a water tank, you have a computer, furniture, this is the structure, people walking, car parking, storage, and everything will be transferred to the foundation. This is important. Okay. This is the purpose of the structure if somebody asks you. Now, how do you assess the safe performance of the structure? So what do we understand till now? What is a structure? What can a structure do? Now the third question is, how do we assess its performance? And how does a structure become unsafe? That's what we will see now. So at any point of time, if structure is failing, it cannot be used in further service of its life. Correct, right? That is what is called as unserviceable. See, we are, so most of you might ride bikes, some of you might ride car, you will go by bus, you will go by train. So there are a lot of means, auto, anything. So for all these things, wherever we are traveling, does they require some servicing after some time? You all agree with that? They all require servicing at some point of time. If there is no servicing done, what will happen actually? If there is no servicing done, the functioning will come down. The efficient functioning will come down. Like that, the structure also, even though it doesn't require servicing continuously, it has to be serviceable. If the load is not applied properly, if the structure is not constructed properly, it becomes unserviceable. So which means that it creates unnecessary failure in the structure. So we need to ensure that those things are not happening. Okay. Okay. Now, so how does this happen? You can see here, the collapse will be because of different loads, external. See, I have constructed a house, and because of summer there is a lot of heat, and because of winter there is a lot of cold. And last time we have seen, I mean, the tremendous rain. The rainfall is very high. So a structure has to withstand heat, cold, and rain, all three. Correct, right? And wind, earthquake, of course. Modes of failure, you will study it in theory of failures sometime soon. Then you will understand it. I'll hold it on. It's not important for us also. And unserviceability. What is unserviceability? Excessive deformation. The structure is deforming more. All the components are falling down. So that's where we have to be very careful. And where can we expect unexpected load? Lack of faulty sprinkler, fire damage, a setup, inadequate ceiling or paint protection. So, if, for example, if you are painting and if the painting is not properly done in terms of layer, it will leak. So that is the problem. Roof not constructed properly. And every time this, remember this word indeterminacy. This is the topic that I'm going to talk about today. Very, very, very important topic. I'll be talking about it today. If the structure is lacking sufficient indeterminacy, it will collapse. I will talk about it a bit later. Hold on. And if somebody is interested to know about different types of failures of various structures in the world, you can have a look into these videos at your free time. I'll share this again with you at the end of the class. This is a very good topic. So now if you can see here that the failed building and the designed building. Okay. So there is a question coming up. What if there are no joints in a structure and we are directly molding a structure or 3D print a structure? Will there be any change in the loads in the structure? A very good question, Ritwik. I would not answer good question. It's an intelligent question rather than being a good question. So the thing is, whenever we are trying to talk about the load, one simple thing will not change at all, right? Anything at any point of time that does not change is the load. You can change the type of the structure. You can, actually there won't be any structure with a joint. So joint means simple. If you are living in a room, whether it is a 3D printed or whether it is a normal block of rectangular in size, it will have a corner, right? Simple, yeah. I am taking my mobile in the hand. It is a rectangular shaped one. At the end, I have an edge, right? Edge is a corner. So every structure will have a corner, and every corner is considered to be a joint because two members, like horizontal one and vertical one, are joining. Okay. In real scenario, we are calling it as beam and pillar or column. But if even if it is a small mold, like the top portion and the bottom vertical portion will be joining together, so there will be a joint. Okay, that is clarity number one. And the most important clarity that I have to give is, you try to make or fabricate any type of structure of any shape, will the loads change? Means if you are constructing a structure you will walk on it, right? So as long as a single person is walking, or at least a chair is put up, or anything that is put up on the top of it or on inside it, the load will not change. Which means whatever you make, we need to construct the structure or mold the structure or 3D print the structure that can take these sort of loads. If it's a single BHK building, I should say that the house should have, I should imagine first that these many people should be there. These are all the components that are there in the house. Accordingly, I need to mold it, print it, fabricate it, or construct it. Okay, so that's the answer for the question. So now in the screen, you can see that the difference between a failed building and a designed building. So you can see the designed building on the right hand side, which is a very good structure, and this is a failed building. So what exactly is happening here? See, the entire structure got collapsed because of the reason that some weight had fallen on it. See that this is a weight, let us assume. So this has fallen on it and the structure is unable to take the load. So such scenarios should be avoided, and you can see that here also. There is one more example of a Skyline Plaza at Bailey's Crossroad, USA. You can see the structure, how it is collapsed. So this is because of improper analysis before. So now comes the important concept that is very, very essential for us. What are various types of structures and classifications? You can see that here. This is a structure with slab, beam, and a column. You can see that. So this is a slab. So these are beams, and these are columns. Okay, or in our non-technical term, we will call it as pillar. Both are same. Okay. Oh, what's happening here? Let us see. Like you have a beam, slab, column. This is an example of a bridge. So is it safe in all conditions? So now we have three supports, very important, which we consider in strength of materials one, and in our normal analysis also we have seen in previous class. What are the three supports? Important: fixed, hinged, and roller. So the question is, isn't fixed more stable than a roller or a hinge? So which support is more stable? Is it fixed or pinned or roller? The answer is fixed because it is intact. It cannot rotate, it cannot deflect. So safe. Correct, right? One very good question you might be asked in interviews. This one, a very important question. Now, if you see this current bridge and the previous bridge also, the pillars are put into the water. So that means there is a change in the temperature, and as long as and when there is a change in the temperature, what will happen? Thermal stresses will be coming into contact. Oh, previously I was talking. All of you should carefully listen. Please listen carefully. So previously we understood in the previous slide that for a pinned or a roller or a fixed is the best solution. But wait, hold on. Now we are talking about temperature stresses, thermal. So what will happen when you have temperature stresses? You will have expansion and contraction. So when you have expansion and contraction, can the fixed support still be safe? No, not. Because the purpose of the fixed is to ensure that whatever the beam that is put at the end, put on the top of it, should not try to move at the corner. But the temperature stresses, they will try to develop the deflections or kind of a small movement at the edges. That's where in bridges, to allow for contraction and elongation during the various types of atmospheric conditions, they use rollers. That's why rollers are important. So now we are all clear. When do we need to use roller or a pinned, and when do we need to use a fixed condition? Thermal stresses are perfect example here. Now, what are the various structures and what are the classifications out of it? This is a very, very important point for very, very important for exam, interview, and if somebody is preparing for GATE, all three. The first category is called the statically determinate, and the second category is called statically indeterminate. I will define what are those. Okay. So if you can see the different type of structures, group of members such as columns, beams, slab, foundation, girder, truss that work as a unit to fulfill a purpose, and a structure to design in a professional, safe, and economical manner in order to fulfill the purpose for which it was designed in the first place. This is a very important concept. It has to be professional, it has to be safe, it has to be economical. The cost should not be also high. It has to satisfy its desired conditions that it is constructed for. That is very important. So just a second. So now here we will see the subject for next 2-3 minutes in terms of what is statically determinate and indeterminate structures, and then close. So first, very, very important, guys. Pakka, there will be a 5-mark question or a 7-mark question or even a 14-mark question with this concept. What are determinate and indeterminate structures. Explain these with neat sketches and examples. Very, very important question. For mid, for external, for gate. For gate, I have seen for the last 15 years, definitely there will be a question related to it. So see here. A structure is statically, this is not indeterminate, determinate. I'll just try to, yeah. A structure is statically determinate only when it has got the equations of equilibrium, which are, yeah, 1 second. Yes. So it's actually determinate when the static equilibrium equations are sufficient for determining the internal forces and reactions on the structure. Oh, the definition is looking somewhat not tricky, but easy only. In simple terms, a structure is said to be statically determinate, listen carefully, if it can be solved by the three equations of equilibrium, or if it can be solved by equations of equilibrium. That means if you have a beam with a simple support, so two unknown reactions, and we have three equations of equilibrium, correct, right? So if a structure can be analyzed with the help of equations of equilibrium, then it is said to be determinate, statically determinate. And then if the structure cannot be solved by the equations of static equilibrium, then it is said to be statically indeterminate. So what are we trying to determine here? Internal forces and reactions on the structure. This is what we are going to do. So for example, the indeterminate beams. So first I will write determinate beams here. So determinate examples are cantilever, and second one simply supported. Cantilever and simply supported. The examples for indeterminate beams are propped cantilever. So this will look like this. So propped cantilever will be looking like this. One end fixed, one end roller. And fixed beam, that is both are fixed. This you will study in this subject. And next we have continuous beams. So where you have two beams continuously attached. Okay. And then we have indeterminate frames. So our job is to understand what is an indeterminate beam, what are the different classifications, and how do we classify it and how do we define it. And we have grids also. So the examples of grids are seen on the screen right now. And these are indeterminate trusses which cannot be solved by equations of equilibrium. So you can see here a rigid frame. So this is a frame. So frame means a portion with two columns and one beam. This is called as a frame. And you can see here continuous beam. So this is beam 1, beam 2, beam 3. So this is an indeterminate structure. So in the next class, I will try to show you the differences between determinate structures and indeterminate structures, which is very important, along with some problems associated with it. So if you are given with a beam or a frame, you should say whether it is determinate or indeterminate. If it is indeterminate, what is the degree of indeterminacy? That's what we will see in the next class. Okay. So thank you all for your patient hearing, and if you have any doubts, you can ask me.